Hello, my name is Francesca Esposito, and I'm an associate director at Border Criminologists. Together with my colleague Vicky Canning, we wanted to spend the first week of October commemorating the lives lost near Lampedusa on the 3rd of October 2013. And we want to do so by critically reflecting on what has changed and what has intensified in relation to border control, especially in the Central Mediterranean area, but not only. And so in this week, we're gonna speak with some persons we invited in order for them to share their knowledge and expertise with us about these issues. So I'm very happy to have here with us and with me Zakaria Mohamed Ali, who is a Somali filmmaker, photo reporter, and journalist. Zakaria has fled Somalia in 2007 and arrived in 2008 in Italy via the Mediterranean island of Lampedusa. He is a human rights advocate and a member of the Archivio Memorie Migranti, the Archives of Migrant Memories, an Italian association that brings together authors, researchers, film directors, and migrants in the creation of a new way of narrating or counter-narrating the migration phenomenon. Amongst the many work and things that Zakaria has been doing in the last years, he has directed several documentary films on migration. In 2013, he directed To Whom It May Concern. In 2018, he directed The Man of Mogadishu. He also participated in the documentary Welcome to Italy with the story Daidir. And he has recently worked on another documentary called Families. So I'm very happy to have Zakaria with me today. Thank you really for making time for this interview with me. And so I'll give you the floor. Maybe, I don't know, if you want to tell us something about you and your work. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Francesca, for the invitation and for this opportunity. You tell that I'm a filmmaker, so I don't need to tell more about this. But I need to tell that I have been living in Italy for 12 years. So I need to give some information, some details about the first documentary To Whom It May Concern. That documentary is a documentary for the search of memories. It's a documentary that gives a message of sharing of memories. Often we only hear or talk about the arrival, but very few people ask who we are and where we come from, what we are doing, and how is our life after arriving also in Europe or in Italy. So also image, after 4 years returning to Lampedusa as a free man, how it's the emotion for the person who arrived at Lampedusa by boat and returning as a free man and walking and seeing the place where I arrived in 2008. So the second documentary, Il Signore di Mogadiscio, or The Man from Mogadiscio, I made in 2013 when happened the tragedy of October 3. Only one day we saw 368 people died only for one day. So there is someone who asked how many people are dying every day in the desert or in the sea. or in the Mediterranean Sea. This is the point. So while the man from Mogadishu I met after the tragedy of October 3, it is some way to find the words, to give also the space, some of the survival one who was on that boat. It was only, also a difficult moment for me to go there and see the people who are involved in that incident. So it is, how do you say, way that as artists that we need to show and to give our contribute, our part. Doing something can be beneficial to our society today.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree, and I think it's really, really important. I mean, this work that you have been doing, and I do believe that it was also very hard emotionally to go there and to do this work and to speak with these people and entering into contact with their suffering. There is, when you present your documentary, The Man from Mogadishu, you describe this documentary as an act of civil and cultural resistance. And also you say that is narrating as a way to survive. And I found this definition very important and very powerful. So maybe you can tell us a little bit more on this, what you mean as an act of resistance, civil and cultural resistance.
Yeah, thank you for asking me this question. The situation and the policies of the border control, for example, that I need to connect the man from Mogadishu, is a little part. I mean, how we arrived in this incident, in this situation. If European government, for example, takes their own role, for example, their own responsibility to resolve and to solve this situation, can't be happening this incident. So as a person going there and seeing the island, visiting people who are involved with this incident, it is a little part. So I need to give in some way simplification how it is our vision as a society. How? Okay, we do something as an artist. Okay, what we are doing is also to give space and possibility to our children in the future. What we will tell tomorrow. Okay, this is the kind of resistance. The challenges are many. We need a real inclusion policy that mainly affects people's life. Our stories and the artists, we must to contribute in our part. That is why I also try to give this word to say this is a kind of resistance, because we need also be against every kind of discrimination or how do you say, exclusion. Because if there is inclusion, I think we don't need to have walls or borders to say, no, you can't come here or you can come here.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think it's interesting and important because as you were saying at the beginning, a lot of time, I mean, we see on the media the news of people dying in the Mediterranean, or at other borders in Libya, in the Mexico-US borders. But these people, I mean, we have this news, but actually it seems like we are speaking of numbers. And instead, as you were saying, there are stories, important stories behind. And so I think this process, this work of storytelling from the bottom, starting from the voices and the lived experiences of people, it's an important way to challenge the silence of the institutions and the violence of these border policies, and also the violence of media who are reporting and describing all these in that dehumanizing way. So,
yeah, this is, for example, this is the reality, not for example. The intention of raising the walls is to divide humanity, deny the existence of the other. So let me share with you these dates, important dates from 1990. For example, now we are talking about Europe and about Italy situation, and I need also to read and share with you this situation. This is the way that every government is the way that tries to close the doors. The first immigration law, so-called Martelli law, was adopted in 1990 and entitled Invasion and Emergency. The second law took place in 1998 by the center-left government. The third immigration law passed in 2002 by a center-right government, so-called Posivini. The fourth legislative took place in 2008 from a center-right government and becomes law in 2009, and was called security package. The fifth immigration law in 2017 from Minniti and Orlando from a center-left and a center-right government. The last one was 2 years ago with Lega government and the Five-Star Movement, so-called security decree. First and second. Each time, they increase the fear and the exclusion of the other. So this is also a kind of responsibility that Europe has, that Europe have. So we are talking since 1990 to today, 30 years. So I think also what we'll see in the Mediterranean or every border in Europe is a process. It's a process, how we arrive here and how it's possible that every time people continue are dying in the borders. This is a big problem, and I think it needs really political inclusion, not exclusion. This is the also difference that if we talk only and say we have to change this law and introduce new one. Okay, but we have to study before introducing new law. What will be after that?
Yeah, and as you were saying, I think very, very well, we have, it's a process, it's an historical process, and we have been witnessing an exacerbation, a worsening of border control and violence against migrant refugees, and I mean, all people trying to cross border to seek a better life. And also, like a few days ago, we had a new immigration and asylum pact presented at the European level, which it's basically again a new it's in continuity with the previous mechanisms and is just worsening these mechanisms in the sense that it's enhancing, increasing security, at the external borders and increasing deportations and I don't know, speaking about solidarity in the terms of sharing the burden of migrants and sharing the burden of deporting migrants. So it's completely, I mean, it's really worrisome, this situation, and how these have been changing.
It's a kind of resigned politics, exalted in its own ideology of simplification, which has renounced a different vision of society. So every time they introduce and change, but still we are the same place, I think. Yeah. There is no really change, or there is no really space to create public without problem. But this kind of European migration policies, I think they prefer only to create enemies. This is anti-migrant politic.
And since you are mentioning this, what do you think, in your point of view, it would be important to bring about a change and border violence? And particularly since you are working with film, journalism, narratives, do you think we need a new vocabulary to speak about this phenomenon, to speak about the experiences of people crossing borders?
Yes, because it is really very important to share our history. And also as refugees or as artists, as activists, everyone, I think, must to give his part. We also need to be protagonists of our own history as refugees, as a migrant, as a person. Everyone must to give his own contribute. Today, we see, unfortunately, that the walls are getting really higher, and the anti-reception policy is, they are doing everything, yes, to build and rebuild other walls. So I think the only solution that we have is to continue talking, sharing a lot of story, to give a space also the students, starting from the schools, university, to the park, every place. We need to talk. We need to open new street, instead that the people understand the reality, to understand what is the fact, to have more space to listen the other one, to ask who you are, where you come from, what you are doing here, because we need to create really a dialogue.
Yeah, and speaking about this, in a recent talk you gave, a TED talk, which I think we will link if you want to, I mean, in the post, because I think it's a very nice talk for people to look. This talk was entitled From a Number to a Person, and there you said a very, I think, powerful thing, and I'm gonna try to quote you. You said that the archives of migrant memories has given you the possibility to tell your story through images and to find another history, to give that names from numbers. And I think I found this a really, really, really powerful statement. And so, yeah, I would like to hear from you about this.
Yeah, in TEDx talk, unfortunately, it was my first experience in that moment. I have prepared a speech for political. That speech was really something powerful, even for me, and I make a lot of research, a lot of important points to share my experience. And when I came before of the speech, they told me that it is not possible to read in the front of the public from the paper. And I say, okay, now I can go without reading, but I will start to talk for only my experience and the experience of the archive. What I tell in that speech is it was the reality, because I'm member and collaboration with the archive since 2011. So the space is something really important. The archive gave me the tools to make research, to work, to make other interview or other to talk with the people. For example, if someone, when he arrive, this is the fact, is like a number, okay? But after years, when you go back to Lampedusa with a document, you are not anymore number, but you are a person. You was also a person, but now you have an evidence with your document in your hand, and you go there. This is what I mean. I mean to say from a number to a person. And also the association of the archive of migrant memories is a little association. So think if this kind of association are many or more and everywhere, and try to collect and share the stories, can be useful. And this is the way that we can make the difference. So also if Zakaria as an artist, as a filmmaker, as a refugee, go and meet with other people from Somalia or other country, can be also very easy to talk or to have dialogue. Then the other journalists from Italy or from other country can be in some way difficult also to have a few also experience that someone can share directly without passing translator, exchanging, and losing also the how I mean the little part of also sharing the sentiment and everything.
The intimacy and
yes,
the emotion and yeah. And I think it's really important, and I mean, and I think that also for you on your side it must be very emotional, and I don't know if you want to share something about this, about how
it is how do you say, it is not easy in the reality when you're always in the same position. I mean, for example, yes, Zakaria in 2020 and Zakaria of 2008. It's the same one, but you listen every day or every time the same experience, for example. Or I need to go forward from this experience, or I don't need to go forward from this experience. This is also another position that sometimes I ask to myself also, who am I, who I need to be, or what I will do. But the problem, it is not in that moment that I ask to myself the thing that we are doing or the way that we are working, but it is the other question that I ask every time to myself during the interviews or when I'm working with other refugees. It is really what I'm doing, it is really enough, can be useful for others. This is what I ask in myself. The emotion that I have inside of me, maybe I remember the situation when I was on the boat or when I was in Libya or in Lampedusa, but that is not a problem for me. The thing that only that I need to ask, it is really what we are doing, it's enough. Tomorrow can be useful for our children or can be something really conserved and shared. This is the question that I have inside of my process.
Yeah, and I think it's the question that all of us ask to ourselves. If we do research, if we do advocacy, activism, if we are filmmakers working, on this in this field, I think we constantly ask to ourselves: is my work transformative or not? Am I contributing to some change or not? And I think that for this reason, the work of the archives of migrant memories is important, especially because it's not a work of just one individual, but is a collective work. And I think the potential for this transformation, it's always when we come together as a collective, and in a collective process, we try to change, to challenge, to question, to transform. And so I think this is the work you are doing and the archives of the migrant memories are doing. Yeah, and that is why I'm really happy to have invited you and to have your contribution in this series, which want to speak not only about the violence and of course remembering the suffering of a lot of people, but also speaking about ways to resist, to challenge, and to transform this reality, and alternative ways of thinking about the world and the future.
This is also another dream or a dream that I have, and I need to share with you. Is I dream to see a world without borders. People can go every place they might need to travel or to visit. Why we European? I say also we European because now I'm the part of Italian society, and I can fly in UK or in Sweden, everywhere in the world. Why someone from the other part of the world can't come and travel to Europe or to other place? So my dream is to see a world without borders.
Yeah. And I think that with this vision of a borderless world that I share with you, I think that we can end here, because I think it's a nice way of ending this talk with a vision for the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much.